Well, hello there, and welcome to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. Well, today's conversation is about sickle cell anemia, living with pain and finding your joy. So many people still don't know what sickle cell anemia is, but it's a genetic blood disorder that causes an enormous amount of pain. My guest today, Temi Renton, will be telling me about her own journey and her own struggle of living with sickle cell from a tender age, but how that has never stopped her to be the person she is. She's a wife, she's a mother, she works, and she does many more. She's also an entrepreneur who started looking at better ways of living healthy while you have a chronic illness. She started an app where you scan for the food products you're buying. So you better have a better understanding what ingredients are in the food you're buying and how that has an implication on your health. She's now pregnant, expecting her third child any minute now. One story and one secret I must share with you is that people with sickle cell will never think we could get married, will never think we could have, let alone have kids. But there she is, going on to baby number 3. What's her secret? Let's find out. Let's talk to Temi Renton as she shares her own story, her own journey, and how she's found her joy along the way. Living with pain and finding your joy. Meet Temi. Well, hello everyone and welcome again to Painless Universal, conversation with myself and Welsh. Temi here is here to join us and she'll be talking to us about chronic illness pain, which is in her case, particularly sickle cell anemia and your diet, and how this frustration of your diet and what you eat can help you with being better or being more sick. She wanted to have a better and a good life for herself, so she decided to take out the frustration and not just take it out, but make something out of that frustration. Let's talk to Temi and understand what she did and how she's overcoming her joy, overcoming her pain. Hi, Temi, how are you?
Hi, Anne. I'm good, thank you.
And where are you joining me from?
North London, a gloomy North London.
Oh no, lovely. I know your life is really interesting because you are very open about your diagnosis with sickle cell. I still talk to a lot of people because myself, I have sickle cell anemia as well, SS. So I still talk to numerous people, and there's still some people who are very shy about talking about it. So they'll say to me, and move the topic around slightly. Don't mention the word sickle cell. I'm like, but why? I have to listen because that's my job. I just have to do what they want me to do. But whenever someone is so happy to talk about it, and also ways they found their joy, I find it so amazing. Before we get into all of that, can you tell us a little bit about Temi Renton? If someone's to ask, who is Temi?
Temi is sickle cell sufferer. So I was born with sickle cell anemia, like we all were. Um, yeah, I'm a mom of 2, going on 3 very soon. um, Lots of growing up. My mom always stressed education, so I'm very, very educated. I have a PhD. I was a lecturer up till 2020 when I decided to switch professions to be an entrepreneur and also to do things in terms of social entrepreneur. So doing things that actually influence people's lives. My adulthood has been mostly defined by me trying to improve not just my health but the health of others, so not just sickle cell but the health of other people who are suffering chronic illnesses, and how managing diets and using herbs and homeopathy basically can actually help rather than hinder a healthy living.
Yeah, that's true. I realized when I was very much younger that my sickle cell was affected by my diet. But having my mom not understanding what impact this was doing to me. Your case, growing up as a child, how did it really impact you? Because a lot of people, I still get people keep asking me the question, what is sickle cell? And I always like every conversation I have, even though it's repetitive, I like people to talk about it in their own words. What is sickle cell and how does the pain affect you?
Well, I mean, growing up, my sickle cell was defined by pain, just lots and lots of pain. Whenever I think about growing up as a child, I remember hospitals, or one particular hospital that I used to go to where they knew my name and they reserved my room. And it's a terrible thing to think that you had a reserved room in a hospital, but that was just the way it is because I was always there. I think things took a turning point when I was about 7 years old because my oldest brother also had sickle cell. And that when I was 7, he passed away. And I think that really had a big impact on my mother because she completely lost faith in Western medicine because she just said it isn't working. Your brother was on it, you're on it, but you're not getting any better. You're always sick. I never used to eat. So I guess you would say the quintessential sickle. I was really skinny. I didn't do much of anything. I tried to do ballet. My mom always encouraged me to do lots of things. I tried to do ballet, karate, things like that, but I couldn't sustain it because I just never had the energy.
Yeah.
And so when I was about 7, 8 years old, my mom decided she was going to absolutely tell everyone that I had sickle cell, and she was going to find out if there was something that they could do to help. Because, reasonably, she believed that, look, this is a disease that we've had in Africa or wherever for hundreds of years. There has to be some kind of not cure, but some kind of way that we can manage this locally, rather than using Western medicine that doesn't actually have a cure or a way to manage the condition. They basically apply things for other illnesses to sickle cell. So that was where she started telling people. I used a lot of I remember growing up, I used a lot of experimental herbs, the fake ones that said they would cure that didn't, the ones that caused more harm than good, marks everywhere, drinking all sorts, bathing with all sorts, eating all sorts in this quest for managing it. But in the end, we did find something made by a man who was both a sickle cell nurse and a botanist. He knew everything about plants and stuff, and he had this mix of herbs and barks and leaves that basically has helped me manage my sickle cell for 30 years now. So yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing, because that's what similar thing that happened to me is that I was also very skinny. I'm still quite skinny that way. I just can't seem to put on the weight. And with sickle cell, I find that you have this ongoing pain, trauma, and hospital was always reserved for you because you never know when you will be in hospital. So it's just like, what, it seems like you're here every week. We might as well just reserve that room for you since you're here. And the appetite, I never used to eat. My parents had to remind me, or they had to get things for me. And I think that's what led me to our conversation with yourself, because one of the things I noticed with you is that you're very particular about your diet. Because I don't know, after taking the herbal medicine, what changes did you notice in your life that made you feel that I could take control of my life? How did you start finding your own joy from that herbal medicine?
Well, the herbal medicine immediately worked in the sense that it stopped my crisis.
Wow.
Period. But the thing about growing up is that you don't always take your meds. Anybody who has a chronic illness knows this. I didn't actually, to be honest, I didn't actually take it consistently until after I had my first child. And it suddenly dawned on me that somebody else depended on me to be alive and for me to be healthy. So I spent a lot of even though we had the solution for decades, I still spent most of my youth in and out of hospital, not taking meds, if you ask me now, I couldn't give you a good explanation except maybe some kind of rebellion against my condition, perhaps. But yeah, it's the herb immediately, what it does is it stops crisis. I remember once I had been using it consistently for about a year and I hadn't had a crisis, so I stopped using it, and it still took a whole year for me to get another crisis. Yeah. So it was an immediate turnaround.
Oh wow, that's really good. And you are you immigrated back to the United Kingdom again, and you're now married and you have 2 kids. And one of the things people with sickle cell tend to hear over and over again is that you can't have kids, you don't marry, and all this, because a lot of people are very skeptical and afraid that if you do get married, you probably meet the wrong guy who probably have more kids with sickle cell, or you probably will not be able to look after your own self. The person won't understand you. But you went ahead to go ahead and have kids and get married. What gave you the courage to proceed with doing this?
I think it's my mother. My mother has always said I could do anything everybody else could. I know that's not true. I'm never gonna climb Everest or, be a triathlete. But yeah, she always told me I could do everything. And honestly, before I actually started my London Girl with sickle cell, I wasn't really in the community. And like you said, I don't actually know anyone with sickle cell personally who is married and has children. But now that I've been in the community, there are loads of people who have, 2 children, 1 child, and are really managing it well. So yeah, I guess my mother just always said, you can do anything you want to do. I've talked a lot about having to date the right person. It's not just about the genotype. It's also about, how the person is, how good they are under pressure, how empathetic they are, how willing they are to help. All those kind of things help me choose a good partner.
I like what you said. It's not just about dating because of the genotype. There's some also you have to date the right person, which is something a critical element people miss is that that person has to understand the unpredictability of sickle cell, the emotional wreck sickle cell can come with because one minute you're happy and that next minute you're sad. Then this said you in 2015 you said your husband and yourself used to have first before that you had used to have a good quality of life, and that good quality of life was that you always were very keen about what it was ingredients was in food. What led to before 2015, before that you used to be, you're very cautious about you go to supermarket, you be scanning things and looking for what ingredient. Who taught you that path of life, that this is something that you needed to pay attention to, because when you know what you eat, it helps with sickle cell, it helps with your health.
Well, in 2015, that was when I got pregnant for the first time. And as anybody who's been pregnant the first time knows, you get very paranoid about everything because especially when you have sickle cell. And I never thought I could have children. My doctors kept on telling me that sickle cell was not a barrier to having children, but I just never, ever believed them. So I just always felt, if my body couldn't sustain me, how could it sustain a life? It
Yes.
just didn't seem plausible. So in 2015, I fell pregnant and I immediately got really paranoid about everything. And then, I would want to buy a pack of biscuits and I would check. I know most people just check sugar and things like that, but because I'm a researcher and I wanted to know more. So I would look and there would just be this massive list of things that I just didn't understand. These massive long names that didn't seem like they belonged in food. And I hadn't noticed that for 30 years. And then suddenly I would go home, I would then get all of the things, I would type in all the ingredients and research each and every single one of them. And it was just absolutely shocking. You would see ingredients in food that causes ADHD, things that causes, oh yes, you would see things that cause things like, long-term use would lead to heart disease or has been linked to cancer. And these are things that are just in just every food. And so yeah, that really got me thinking, that really got me paranoid and everything. And I realized that actually I couldn't be going home every day and be doing this. It took too long and I needed to find a solution that would be more time effective for me, which was, yeah, that's how I got into the whole ingredients thing.
So in 2015, when you and your husband found yourself out of a job and you were no longer to maintain the same lifestyle, because most of these healthy food, and one thing people don't know, they're very expensive. The ones that are good for you, very that should do the job, are actually quite expensive. But you said, okay, even though we're both out of a job, we're still going to have to try and maintain this lifestyle we started. What did you do?
Well, I mean, that was because we went from eating only organic foods and all these kind of things and being able to afford all that to suddenly not being able to afford it. And like you said, things that come in cans and bottles and things are a lot cheaper than things that come fresh. So that was when I started looking into, the ingredients and trying to whittle out what was good and what was bad. But I think aside from that, once I realized, how terrible some ingredients were, we one thing we did do was reduce volume. So we would sometimes go out and you could buy so much food for £100, for example, but then we would simply reduce the volume of the food that we bought, so have more quality meals rather than quantity of meals. And then also we started looking into alternative ways to buy food. So usually I would just go to the supermarket, but then I started looking into things like corner shops and well, I wouldn't call them farmers markets because those are really expensive, but the ones that you have, by the sides of the road and stuff like that, they're usually a lot cheaper. So yeah, just things like that. Doing research, finding out, rather than buying Uncle Ben's rice, buying buying shop brands, things like that, little things like that made a huge difference.
Mm. No, and your tech solution was born though. That
Yes,
also
exactly.
gave you a whole concept because you realize that, okay, I could do this on a cheaper basis, but I still want to know if I want to buy that thing, if I want to try this thing, I still want to know what ingredient is in there. And this is how you like this whole concept of the tech solution to everyday problems of not being able to identify what is in the food, in the food we buy. And you decided to design this tech thing. Tell me how that is going and how does this work?
Oh, well, it started, what's in it actually started as just something that I and my husband just discussed, and then we slept on it and we're like, actually, this seems like such a good idea. So we decided to do, he's in tech. So yeah.
So
So
helpful.
that was, that was easy.
So helpful.
He's in tech, so I didn't have to do everything by myself. But basically, I did loads and loads of research. I got talking to nutritionists and nutritional therapists and stuff like that. And we just put together this really simple app where you could go to a shop, you could take a picture of something, and then it would just give you what the ingredients is, and it would give you the side effects and where it's allowed and where it's not allowed and things like that. So yeah, it was really basic, or you could type in the ingredient you wanted, and we just took it out as a beta on the App Store, and it actually got, I thought it would just be useful for a few people, but actually people with IBS, people whose kids had allergies, people who were immunodeficient, we got so much response from that. It was really amazing, and it was because we let it be international, not just in the UK. We got so much responses from people, grandparents saying, I'm always really paranoid when my grandson comes to visit because I'm not really up to the task of, like his parents, about what he eats and stuff. So yeah, we got a really good response. But like anything in tech, yeah, it takes a lot of maintenance. It's not always compatible with with full-time work and stuff. So after a while, it needed to take a back seat to my profession and his profession and stuff. And now basically what we're trying to do with it is we're trying to see how we can how we can make it more available to most people while still not taking, where it can help people, but not take over our time the way it did between 2015 and 2020, because it was basically having 3 full-time jobs in the house.
Wow. Yeah, but you know, and as a sickle cell warrior and person, and you have kids, you're married, you're also an entrepreneur. How do you balance it all? Because a lot of people struggle in the balancing act. So you think, oh, okay, I have my sickle cell, I have this, and I just can't balance it all. So I'm just going to focus on one thing. But you're doing it all, and you're showing us that it can be done. What would be your secret? What would you advise anyone listening to this conversation and wants to know more?
Don't have so many kids. Honestly, I know that's a controversial statement to make, but honestly, don't have so many children. But if you do have so many children, I mean, my mom always quotes this lady who says, women can have it all, but not all at once. And I think I'm and I think I'm kind of on board with that. I think, yes, in a way I juggle a lot of things, but then in a way, I guess some things do have to take a back seat, which is like I said, my entrepreneurship did have to take a back seat to my managing my condition and my kids and my career and all that kind of stuff. So yes, but the thing that I can say helped me the most, which I realized once I got into my 20s, was planning. Because sickle cell has a lot of triggers, weather, things like that. I don't get triggered by weather and all that. I get triggered by anxiety, and I think a lot of people with sickle cell also get triggered. So when I was in uni, I had about 3 friends and a cousin who died of sickle cell during exams. So yeah, anxiety is a huge trigger for people with sickle cell. So I am always planning. I always have things, I never leave things to the last minute, all those kind of things. If I have something to do in 2 weeks' time, I know exactly when I'm going to do it, how it's going to be. And that has really helped me. And it really helps with kids as well, because a lot of the problems that a lot of people have is, things like bedtime, and their kids won't go to bed on time and things like that, which can cause you to be really anxious. But I never had that problem because my kids are, they have quite a regimented schedule, and that's not necessarily just for them. It's also for me, because if they're asleep by 7:30, then I have the whole evening to relax and calm down and unwind than if I have a 2-year-old screaming at 10 in the night. So I think definitely hydration, of course, but also scheduling and planning has really helped me.
Yeah, no, because I get tired a lot, especially, and I have two kids, I have a family as well. So it is tiring. And people always ask me, and how do you do all of it, everything? I said, look, when I'm with my kids, I'm with my kids. I give them my full time. And when I'm not with their kids, my kids, when it's someone else's time to look after them, I have no guilt at all.
Yeah.
Because I'd rather have my time where even if I have to take a nap, I really sleep and sleep out the pain than being in a place where it is, I make my sickle cell worse, and I'm going to have to take 10 days away from them in hospital. So I said it's better I done, and they understand. My daughter, who's I think she's similar age to your kid, my daughter is 4, and she understands it now. And even if I say mommy needs to sleep, she's like, okay, mom, do you want me to cover you up and stuff? And she knows when I wake up, I'm so energized I could run out and play with her. So it's
Yeah.
all about the balancing act. What tips? I'm going back to your app because the app is such a fantastic thing, especially in today's world where there's so much, and especially the food market, the food market in general is trying to make money on anything. So they could have to put things in our food to just make it edible.
Mm.
And what are your top tips for eating on a budget? Especially because so many people lost their jobs. The COVID has made it very difficult. So people want to eat anything just to stay, keep full. What would be your tip to someone who wants to stay healthy but on a budget?
Well, I would tell you to eat fresh, shop around as well. There's no shame in going to places like Lidl or Aldi, places like that, our mums or a person on a budget's best friend. So definitely do that. But I mean, I can understand that not all that you can't always have the time and to cook from scratch, and I get that. I don't have the time either, but I would also say that you check ingredients. That's really, really, you can go to a supermarket, for example, and want to buy a pack of oven chips, which is one of the easiest things to make, and one of them has 25 ingredients in it for no reason at all, while the other has 3 ingredients: sunflower oil, potato, and salt. So being aware of those things as well is really, really important. So eat fresh as much as you can, and if you can't, then definitely look at the ingredients, because you may think that it doesn't cause any harm to you at the moment, but in the long term, these things tend to build up in the body, and they, at the end of, they cause a lot more harm than good. So that would be my 2 tips.
A final question is that you are a mom, and congratulations. I see you about to pop any minute now. Congratulations, mother with sickle cell. You're now I'm going to baby number 3. So
Yeah.
people with sickle cell do not believe they could get there. I stopped at 2 because I always believed that I think my body could just take 2. Don't even bother trying to go to 3. There's just no way you could do it. And
Yeah,
guess
I said
what?
that to my doctor when I had my second child as well. I'm not having any more children. This is it.
Yes, exactly. And I felt the same way. They said, "This is it. Don't bother. Don't just keep it." And there you are. You're brave in it. You're a brave lady. You're going to baby number 3, and you're also maintaining a healthy lifestyle while doing this. And you also keep maintaining your job. You maintain your family. You know, what advice would you give to sickle cell warriors who are so wanting to have this lifestyle you have, but just don't know how?
I think I don't know. I'm really controversial on this because
Oh no, it's better. It's best to be honest, because if and honesty is the way that solves most problem. But when people try to hide the truth, it means you're not telling us what you really did.
okay, well, I mean, aside from hydrating, which is I think number one for all sickle cell, resting a lot is really good.
Yeah.
But then the way I get controversial is I don't believe that Western medicine holds the answer to managing or living well with sickle cell. I have honestly never seen anybody who has been on a strictly Western, on a strictly medicine based treatment program
Mm.
that doesn't have some kind of problem or the other. So hip replacements, or necrosis of the back, or constant blood transfusions, or exchange transfusions. I'm not saying that obviously my herb is the only herb, because I don't think that's true, but there are loads of ways. There are loads of people on the internet. I wouldn't, advise you go into the internet to look for things, but there are loads of people who are out there who are using, alternative ways. They're, using things like even and flow. They're managing it with things like chlorophyll and all that. I honestly believe that a herbal route is the best way to manage sickle cell. Now, this is not to say that if you're sick, you shouldn't go to hospital. You should definitely go to hospital if you're ill. But every single day, I think there are ways to manage it, like you said, with food, with really good food, sometimes with herbs. And I've also found that when I'm not, very, very pregnant, exercise helps me a lot. I used to do yoga every single day, and it centers you. You focus on your breathing. You do it for half an hour, but you feel like you've had 5 hours of sleep. So definitely the hydration, finding alternative ways to manage it. And this can be anything. I tried veganism, that didn't work for me. I've tried so many things. It's a trial and error process a lot of the times. But yeah, so herbal, eating the right foods, hydration, exercise, and planning so you don't get anxious, I think is really those are my points. That's how I get to live the life that I do.
Well, Temi, I think this is, you can't explain it any better, because I think I really sympathize with what you just said. It's all about planning, because the more anxious you are, that leads on to a crisis. I wake up every morning, have water. A lot of exercise, it gets the body really pumping, and the blood, it's almost like your blood. Yeah, it's you always have to have water, and the only disadvantage of having water is then you always have to look for the toilet. Where's the nearest toilet? I always go to loo, because it's just horrible. But on that note, I never give up on that. I won't drink my water because I have to look for the next. You have to do it. It makes such a difference. If you're eating lifestyle, you have to eat things that your body agrees with, because you just know your body start getting that reaction when you eat something that's bad for you. And why do you want to put your body in extra stress? Exactly. And I think you said it well, and I really wish you the best of luck with the baby number 3. Keep us posted when baby gets here. We will love to see baby when baby's here. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you so much for everything. I really enjoyed this conversation, and we'll speak soon. Thank you.